Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Master Key Experience dispensing channel so that you can grow personally and develop a healthy mindset. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but uh, I was just telling our guest today, Sam, Self-Worth Sam, that I'm very nervous. And I saw a post on TikTok from Sam recently where he's trying to figure out how to become a better speaker. He's already a legendary speaker, trying to become better and how to connect better with the audience and so forth. And I think that Sam and I are in agreement, which is okay to be nervous today, because show me a speaker that's not nervous, and I'll show you either A, a lousy speaker, or B, a speaker who doesn't care. So it's really fun to be really nervous here today. Use that energy when you have it. So let me tell you a little bit about Self-Worth Sam. He's a noted speaker and coach, but what I've discovered is an authentic desire to elevate self-worth in all people. You know, everybody knows that studies metaphysics at all, that the world without is a perfect printout of the world within, what you actually believe. That's actually out of the Master Key System by Charles Haanel. And our course starts in September. And of course, you can't buy it. It's all done with scholarships. And so make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can get the information when it comes up, and grab a scholarship for that 6-month course, which will draw the best version of yourself out of yourself. But here's the deal, and why I invited Sam on and why I'm thrilled that he said yes. Anyone, if they're paying attention, can spot a phony. Yet in a world of skepticism and a plethora of self-proclaimed experts now using AI to position themselves, this is a new thing, position yourselves as an authority, right? Anybody can spot a phony in this world of skepticism. Yet most people can't spot the genuine article. And folks, Sam is that rare, genuine article. His live events don't just entertain people, they elevate, and this is a key word, permanently, their ideas about themselves, great ideas about themselves, and they go out and they make changes in their lives. So I'm going to speak for Sam here and wishing everyone on this broadcast aloha. And most people don't know what this word aloha means. I certainly didn't when I first moved to Kauai with my wife, the fabulous Davine, 10 years ago, actually 15 years ago. It was in 2010. But alo means divine, and ha means breath. So both Sam and I, speaking for you, Sam, I never even asked you, but most people don't understand that. So we're wishing you aloha, that the breath of the divine is on you and it opens your mind a little bit so you can discover a couple of these action steps that Sam's so great at, and open up to the field of pure potentiality within yourself. One of the things that attracted me, I met Sam through TikTok, and after watching a lot of his posts, I just fell in love with both his willingness to uh, show frailty or vulnerability, his humility, and his humor. I love that he says, you know, I grew up thinking I wasn't intelligent, yet now, because of the process he went through, uh, he now speaks to executives and teams about rewiring their mind and unlocking their true self-worth from, and it's right out of Haanel, the inside out. Now, this is a guy that wrote a book that I want to ask him about after our first question that we always ask, is how to beat imposter syndrome and be confident. So we want you to talk about that a little bit, or define that for us. But basically, we like to start everything the same way, just to get somebody's point of view, Sam. And that is self worth. It really gets down to, we have to grow personally. So the great debate has always been out there. You have to have a healthy mindset to grow personally, or you grow personally and then you get a healthy mindset. Which of those two things, in your opinion, come first?
Well, firstly, thank you, Mark. I'm honored to be on here. I'm going to say that my journey to define self-worth has led me to the realization that in personal development, you've got to be exact. The more precise you can be, the less fluff you can be, the more impact you're going to have when you're teaching it to someone else. And that was my own criteria, because we know that there's a lot of stuff out there. I'm going to say that it's a mindset that you can learn. And I'm going to define it in 6 words: presence, gratitude, appreciation, enthusiasm, love, and certainty. Those, when you're in that state, is the transcendental mind. It's where you're aware of the authentic self, the essential self. And in that state, there's no judgment, positive or negative, for yourself or other people or events. You appreciate what is. And from a neurological point of view, this is called when the cortical dominance, I think it's called, where it's just this focus on higher purpose, higher mission, usually to do with peak states. When you're in that state, you know it. You're coming from your heart, you've got objectivity, and you're inspired. So you can get into the state knowing that that's the criteria.
Beautiful. Well said. The purpose I get from you is unlocking humanity's true self-worth from the inside out. Now, and this seems to be the catharsis or the core of this bestseller you have, How to Beat Imposter Syndrome and Be Confident. So let's start with, what is imposter syndrome?
Self-doubt despite evidence of ongoing success, despite evidence of achievement, despite evidence of a track record that you came through with the goods, acknowledgement, praise, awards, like street cred. Self-doubt in the face of having all of that. Okay. And it comes with a fear of being exposed as an intellectual fraud. And so wow, that's the definition. It's a psychological state. It is not technically a mental illness because it hasn't been classified in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, Volume 5, which is the American Psychiatry Association's Bible, if you like. It lists all the mental illnesses, but it's probably going to get into that book soon. But essentially, it's a type of self-doubt, even though you've got a track record of achievement.
Right. So it's like one of the things that we talk about in the Master Key Experience is we have people write out 100 things that they do, right, that they've done right. You know, just graduated high school, made my little league team, and so on and so forth. And then we have them add 50 a week for about 3 or 4 weeks. And so they start focusing more and more on the day once they take care of history. And I remember myself thinking, you know, I was a single parent raising 2 kids by myself. I got the kids off to school. I went and hustled seafood. You know, I drove in traffic all day. I didn't get in an accident, you know, but I forgot the dry cleaning, and that makes me a piece of garbage, right? Is that what you're talking about? Is that a simple example?
Exactly.
Yeah. So how do we beat this imposter syndrome? We take this one thing we did wrong, or we are 8 here and 8 here and 8 here and 9 there, a 10 here, a 10 here, or 2 here, and we put our whole self-worth on a 2 because we shot 90 at the golf course instead of 85. How do we beat that? What's your suggestions about that? What are some action steps that people can do to understand their worth?
Okay, well, understand that if you're perceiving a specific event to be more disadvantageous than advantageous, you're going to feel guilt and shame about that because of a perception ratio, more bad than good. And you kick yourself for it, right? So what you can do is you can look for ways that it was advantageous to you and others logically, and how it served you and others until the benefits and the advantages to you and others equal the drawbacks that you currently perceive, and you will dissolve the emotional charge, and you will see with clarity and objectivity and appreciation for the way the event happened, and you'll be able to let it go and move on. You're human. We're all human. We're going to have days where we go, I screwed that up, and we're going to have days where we go, I crushed that. That was me. That's fine. But if you've got an event that's taking up time and space in your mind and you're still kicking yourself because of it, look for the other side. As you and I know, from a metaphysics point of view, every event is neutral until somebody judges it positive or negative based on their value systems, based on a paradigm of duality, not a spiritual one of oneness where nothing is missing.
Right.
So you look at the event that you're judging, or you're judging yourself for, and look for the other side, and just logically look through the 7 areas of life, primary, secondary, tertiary benefits to you and others, until it makes sense in your mind and your heart. You'll then have a physiological pulling of the heartstrings and a tear of gratitude in your eye that it happened precisely as it happened. You'll love and appreciate yourself. And it will dissolve the duality, and you'll get into the transcendent mind for like a few moments.
Right.
Yeah.
In 1965, 66, sometime in there, NASA, headed up by Dr. Land, realized that they needed some really smart people to expand the program. So they started looking for geniuses. And we all know that the bell-shaped curve around intelligence is 2% are definitionally idiots, 2% are genius, 17% are slightly above average, 17% are slightly below average, and the rest of us are in the middle. Well, as it turns out, they started testing people younger and younger, and they found out, and they studied these people, 1,600 kids. They studied them for 25 years. And at 5 years old, 98% tested out as creative genius. Those same people at age 30 were now in that 2, 17, 17, and 2. So 96% of us are creative geniuses that don't know it. And it seems like your material is helping people rediscover this divinity within themselves. Imagine turning a creative genius loose on your desire, your purpose, your real heart's desire. How is that something that you try to impart on people, how to rediscover that they were made first class by first class, or what's your approach to helping people understand that everything they need is already in them? Because that's the real trick. I see it in the excerpts, a little bit I've read out of your book. It seems that that's the direction you're moving in. Is that true? And if it is, how do you help people move past the conditioning, right? We like to say, the short way to say it is fire your head and hire your heart.
Yeah.
How do you do that? What's your suggestion for people to reclaim that creativity that's within them?
3 things and then a story. Clarify your highest value, clarify your identity, and your area of expertise. What's most meaningful to you, what you're naturally inspired to do, what you value most. Past the judgment of what other people think of it, find the thing that's really in here and that matters to you. Then you'll know your identity. For me, it was teaching and learning. So I identified as a teacher. And my area of expertise is personal development. So when I'm talking about that, even though I might make mistakes, I still see it as part of the journey. Now, what people can do is look into the 7 areas of life and say, which one of them am I most inspired about? In there will be their identity, because identity revolves around that value, which is actually based on a void of something that people perceive is missing in their life, and they want to fulfill it. Okay. Excuse me. About 2014, I had the fortunate experience of meeting the world's leading human behavior expert, Dr. John Demartini. I found an audio program of his, and it changed my financial destiny. He taught me the psychology underneath wealth building and how it connects to self-worth. Fundamental stuff, nothing like sophisticated, just a few tweaks. It was his work that led me to understand how important values are and how that links to your identity and your core competency. And your life will already demonstrate factually, you can observe it, what you value. But you won't see it because you're judging it because of imposed value systems. And you say, oh, my parents don't value this, so therefore it's not valuable, or society doesn't value it, or one part of society doesn't value it, therefore you judge it and you minimize its worth. But if you really look and go, what am I inspired to do that nobody needs to remind me to do? Where am I most naturally organized and inspired? There's your value.
Okay.
It's not the values you want. It's not social idealisms. You really got to know thyself. And actually, the book that you've got there, Imposter Syndrome, the one message I wanted people to remember from that book was know thyself, know thy worth. It's on a temple of Apollo in Delphi. Know thyself.
Right.
Of the 147 maxims written by the 7 sages of Greece, that one was over the entrance to the temple of Apollo in Delphi. Why would that one have been chosen as the number one? It's the purpose of philosophy. Know thyself. Once you know that, nothing can get in your way.
Wow, you've hit on so many major points here. You know, as Davine likes to call him Socrates, but it was Socrates, right? So we all know what the machine does and has done for over 2,000 years is to try to scare people, demoralize them, and then bring them to the circus, right? That's basically what happens. And so, like you said, these social values that are put on us, we go to school and they say, you know, what Land discovered in his study was that they strip out divergent thinking and get us into convergent thinking. Simple example. You can be anything you want to be, but you better follow the rules like everybody else. Otherwise, you go to the principal's office and if you go 3 times, you're going to get kicked out of school and live in a box under a bridge.
Yep.
But you can be anything you want to be. So we get these mixed messages right away, and we get mired in the momentum of mediocrity, and we forget who we are.
This happened to me in elementary. I thought I was stupid because I was failing the spelling tests and the mathematics tests, judging my creativity over here. I was winning design competitions for like camp t-shirt or the backdrop that all the students painted for the end of year Christmas, show for the parents. My designs got selected for that, but I judged creativity as unvaluable because you're looking around at, well, isn't mathematics and spelling and all of that stuff, that's up here, and creativity wasn't being recognized. So there was a conflict in me. It was like, well, you can't be that. You're not going to fit in. You're not going to be liked. So I searched for external validation by trying to be someone I'm not, by trying to value something that wasn't of any meaning to me. That was how it started.
Yeah, this is just such a great subject here. So we see people doing this all day, right? Yeah, scrolling on their phone. The average person, by the way, and don't think you're not average in this way, picks up their cell phone up from 83 times a day for no reason to 97 times a day for no reason. They pick it up and they're scrolling through and they're seeing these little clips, 30 to 60 seconds. And it creates an illusion that these people's lives are wonderful. But in fact, they get colds, they get the flu, they get constipated, they have arguments with their wife, they have repairs on their house, but it creates an illusion. And why is my life not perfect, right? And that's that social influence, along with this killing the individuality in school and making us comply. What are your steps to help people understand that those values have been imposed upon them of what's valuable and what's important? And how do they find that heart's desire? How do they find their identity? I love what you said, identify who you really are, right?
Yeah.
Because we're always doing things like with me, when I started playing Little League, I had 2 uncles that raised me. My dad died when I was 3. And they would teach me things about baseball. They were both great athletes. And I was always trying to share with them and share with the other kids on the team, hold your glove this way and this and that. And I loved teaching, which I now call facilitating, but it's really just a word. Fundamentally, how does one break through that social conditioning? I mean, we tell people to write down 10 things they want and then get away from it for 10 minutes and come back and look at it and say, how did you come to that in conclusion? Why is that important, right? How do you help people break through that social conditioning, that convergent thinking, and get back into that creative space.
Dr. John DeMartini has a values determination assessment on his website. He's my mentor. He's the Aristotle of our time. His values determination assessment looks at the facts of your life. So you don't have to think about this. You just look at the facts. So what's in your space? What's in space, close proximity? The objects that are near you. For me, it's books, because I love learning. It's communication and presenting, teaching. So I need the tools. I've got a microphone. The things that are close to me. For someone else, it might be their children. Their children are always nearby because they value family. It might be that you value business. And so you got business books and you go to business events. You're in close proximity to those things. That's just physical space. Then how do you spend your time? Like what, not your to-do list, but your done list. What did you actually do? How did that fulfill your value? Then you look at how you spend your money, because that's an exchange of value. You look at the topics you like to think about, talk about, steer the conversation to, the people you look up to. They're all indicating your natural values. The things that you want to go and do. Here's a good one. If you didn't have to work for money, what would you love to do for work? Not just sit by the pool with a pina colada in your hand, although that's fun a little bit. What is it, the service and the line of work that you would love to contribute to the world if you didn't need any money? And these things help indicate your value. And then your job is to make a hierarchy and go, what's number one, number two, number three, number four, right? If you can know your number one, you'll know it because you'll get a tear in the eye. You'll be like, that's what I'm all about. That's when you tap into your highest value, your essential self, the authentic self, the one that doesn't judge. DeMartini calls it a state of unconditional love, or the soul, which I think is beautiful. S-O-L-E, S-O-U-L. So people do an audit of your life, go through the facts and go, wow, I actually do value that. But I'd been judging it. And I'd been looking up to other people and saying, I've got to try to be like that person. I've got to live in their value system, not mine. And I'll never be able to achieve that because you're seeing a one-sided story about this person that you've fabricated. And as a result, you put their value up, you cloud and distort and devalue your own and call yourself an imposter. You're playing a game that you can't win. If you continue to compare and exaggerate their value based off a one-sided opinion you've created in your head, you will never achieve them. So you got to look for where you express your value and contribute to the world, and your heart will just go, thank you, finally. Then you'll be impacted.
Wow. Wow. So this is where this imposter syndrome comes from. And of course, I'm tying it back into some things that I've read about you. And so this is what deteriorates our self-worth, rather than, and if we're chasing that desire.
There's a few things. So the inauthentic self, the authentic self are at opposite ends of a pole, okay? Up here at the authentic self is your highest value, your self-worth, your enthusiasm, your certainty, your gratitude, appreciation, presence, love. Down here at the other end, you have the inauthentic self. You have judgment, subjectivity. Up here, you have objectivity. And then you split down here into instinct and impulse. And up the top, you have intuition, which has dissolved the dualities of good and bad. And you see everything as a hidden order, which Wilhelm Gottfried Leibniz said in his, that's a good one, right? Leibniz said in his a discourse on metaphysics that there is a hidden divine intelligence and order to the world, and those that get a glimpse of it, their lives are changed forever. I have had that experience handfuls of times because of the DeMartini method, which is a series of questions created by John DeMartini. It's repeatable, methodical, scientific, and it works every time if you hold yourself accountable and don't believe your own BS.
Yeah, you said something really powerful in the Kabbalion, which outlines the seven principles, right? One of them is polarity. And when one takes the true hero's journey from Joseph Campbell, and I know that we have a little
Love that.
connection there, right? Is that the hero, once he dies, basically meaning the social reactive self, what we've been trained by society is important, and finds his soul. And we like to say one of the things we like people to think about is, what if you don't have a soul, but in fact you are a soul? A soul isn't part of you, but your body, your mind, and so forth are all parts of your soul, all different ways for your soul to express itself. This is such a great thing because he gets to a point in the hero's journey, what's known as apostasis, where he realizes there are no opposites. There's just different degrees of the same thing, hot and cold, light and dark. And that instead of these things causing how we react, that we rise above it and we determine where we are in that space. So polarity is, I think, is what you're talking about, is that there are no opposites, that everything is connected. But if I'm down here in the social reactive place, I'm instantly compelled to judge.
Well, it is based entirely on biology, on our animal brain. This is where we get it from. Black and white thinking, prey and predator. That's going to eat me, and I want to eat that. Prey, predator, and the animal brain works on that, and that it helped humanity get where it is. So it's been incredible at helping us survive. Many people still live in that kind of mentality of seeing the world is either out to get me or I need to go get things. So gain and loss, seek and avoid. But a transcendent mind based on the executive centers of the brain allows us to actually see things beyond the duality and see objectively and see the negative in the positive and the positive in the negative, and then make a decision.
As one.
And go, rather than react, you act out of devotional love for the mission that you're inspired to do, whether that's your family, your business, your city, your state, your country, the planet, wherever you want to play in the game, right? And there's no judgment. Nothing's missing. Because if you look at something that you perceived as negative, you can, if you hold yourself accountable, find an equal amount of benefits to balance it. And there is a physiological criteria of a pulling on the heartstrings, and you go heartstrings, and you will see through the duality. And it's called a gamma wave state or coherence in neurology, where the brain is at between 30 to 100 hertz cycles per second. It's a well-documented phenomenon. Peak performance, aha moment, a eureka moment. And there's a balancing of the autonomic system. The parasympathetic and the sympathetic system regulate, and they create this clarity and certainty in the face of challenge. And that's how the hero brings out their gift.
Right. And so if we give that gift without expectation or reciprocity, because I'm giving,
now you're serving.
Right. If I'm giving, expecting something back, I'm not really giving. I'm trying to control things. But I have to trust universal law that the universe is going to reward me. Because it's really about committing to excellence while simultaneously being detached from the outcome, then I'm truly giving. Yes? What are your feelings about that?
The Bhagavad Gita, the ancient Indian Sanskrit text, the Bhagavad Gita says exactly what you just said. Detach yourself from the outcome and just do the work devotionally, whatever that work is. In the book, they're all about Lord Krishna, right? In Christianity, Christ. To Buddha, it doesn't matter the God. It matters the service. To whom are you doing this for? When you're in that state, you get into the flow, you're more appreciative, you see challenges as things that you want to solve, that other people would just think there's no way I would want that life. But we've all got our own challenge that we want, right? So I think it's really about finding the thing that you would love to serve and contribute most for the sake of it. And there will be reward beyond your imagination that comes, but you got to let go of the reward.
Right.
That's
You go,
the game.
we like to say, let go of the banana. There's this monkey in Africa that's virtually impossible to catch,
Oh yeah.
but they catch him all day long by putting bananas in a glass vase with a small opening, and he puts his hand in, and he's got the bananas, right? But he gives up his freedom because he won't let go of the banana. And to me, that's that social set of values rather than my own set of values. So two things I wanted to cover here that I think you can give us some great insight on is that, and this is fine to disagree with this, I don't believe that people actually want things, okay? I think what they really want is the feeling that they think they're going to have when they have it. And we've been taught, when you do this, you'll be successful. If you do that, you'll be successful. That's that social reactive stuff that we've already moved past. But I think if people really understand who they really are, then they know what's going to float their boat emotionally. And that's where fulfillment comes from. In other words, if they're following their bliss, it's really the feeling that they get when they achieve things, not the thing itself. What's your opinion of that?
A lot of truth in that. So, yeah, people go after how something will make them feel and the feeling is based on a perception that I got more benefits and upsides and advantages, but they're unaware of the disadvantages. So there's elation. All right. Now, emotional polarities have judgment, more advantages or more disadvantages. There's a judgment, perception ratio, but a state of the authentic self is chargeless. It is in the middle. There's no judgment, a state that is certain, a state that is appreciative, grateful, loving, enthusiastic, not excited. You're realistic. Whereas you find someone who's going after something, they see more positives than negatives, and they become unrealistic. I think, oh, once I get that, everything's going to be fantastic. And then they get it. And that, well, how many toes have they needed to step on to get there? How many family members have now said, get lost because you're annoying? You might have your goal, but what relationships had to sacrifice? And so you don't see the downsides. You could flip it around and go, what if you didn't get the thing that you wanted and you looked for the upsides? You go, well, it brought me closer to my family as a result of not getting my goal. Maybe family is something that you really value, and life gave you feedback called failure to create those bonds. So it depends on how you look at things, but a state is not an emotion. You want to get into a transcendent state of appreciation down the middle, like Plato's golden ratio. I think it was Plato's golden ratio.
Yes.
Find the mean, the mathematical mean in all of the drama, or as DeMartini says, find the meaning in the mean. Right in the middle, where there's no judgment, positive, negative, you're objective about your service. You just do the work because the work produces the love and the energy. Therefore, you're not chasing it, or you're not running to it. You're not running from it. You're just slow and steady like the turtle, the tortoise. Right. That is the middle path. And it's entirely relevant to today. You can still apply that mentality today, especially today with like mental health crisis, debt, prices of everything going through the roof, governments you can't trust, media throwing all sorts of messages at you, social media saying, look how fantastic my life is, and not showing you the opposite. What can you do in the face of all of that? Come back to your value and your mission and who you are, and serve the people that you care about most. And the noise disappears.
Yeah, one of your, I think it was 7 things was, or 6 things was enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Meaning the real definition, it comes from entheos, meaning spirit or God in you. And if you're
to be possessed by God or divinity.
Correct. So if someone's there and they're in that state, realizing that we're all connected, right? Everything's connected. We're all together. It's all one, or as it says in the Kabbalion, the all is the all, right? And when I'm in that space, this is where enthusiasm comes from when you're following your bliss, because then you have no judgment. I mean, Wallace Wattles talked about the fact to really be successful in the science of being great, to draw your greatness out of you, the science of getting rich and all that, you have to lose the competitive mindset and move into creativity. What are your feelings about that?
Well, I appreciate competition and creativity equally. They're both needed. They're not going away. That's what makes the market strong, competition and creativity. I'm going to say, I've lost my train of thought. We were talking about, what was the key word in your?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, yeah. Okay, so I find that enthusiasm for me has calmed me down, but I've given myself more time to go after my goal, and it's made me more realistic and strategic, and as a result, more impact has come from me, because I'm not coming from a place of desperation. I'm coming from a place of inspiration. The thing that lights me up. Now, here's the thing. I was not raised in a religious family. We weren't entirely atheist. Like my parents put Church of England on the birth certificate. We never went to church. I ended up doing a philosophy degree, studying comparative religion, especially Eastern mysticism. I was like, wow, what's all this stuff?
Yeah.
And as a result, I have an incredible appreciation for the world's spiritual traditions, and I try to look for what's universal in them and then make it practical for a range of people out there in the world, just saying, Sammy, tell me what I got to stop. Tell me what to start doing. Just cut to the chase. Because of my Virgo nature, I like things to be practical, precise, no fluff. There's the goal. What's the strategy? In addition to knowing all of this stuff about spiritual wisdom, which is entirely enriching. It's good for the mind to study that and go, okay, now how can I apply that to my value, to the people I want to serve?
Beautiful.
That's enthusiasm.
Yeah. Well, you touched on a great thing about comparative religions, which has been a long story that I won't bore our viewers with right now, but had an experience when I was 12 years old where I went to a different religious thing every other week, Quaker, evangelicals, and so on and so forth. And I've come to understand that created an impression on me that stayed with me. And as I started to grow in metaphysics, I became very enthused about comparative religions. And, Christ wasn't a Christian, and Buddha wasn't a Buddhist, and Muhammad wasn't a Muslim. They all had one religion, and that was love, right? Which is the commonality that you see in the less controlling type of atmospheres.
I remembered what I was going to say about enthusiasm. So we have two ways of perceiving time. One of them is sequential, past, present, future. Things happen in a line. The arrow of time goes through like that. Most people see things as past, present, future. All right. There's another way of seeing the world, and that is simultaneous contrast, where you see two things at the same time. Okay. You see a deeper meaning. You dissolve the dualities and you enter a state of synchronization, or you see synchronicity, that everyday events have a deeper meaning, and you can see this groove or this path of bliss that Joseph Campbell talks about. That when you can see the meaning in your path, then it's like a certainty that you just cannot explain. But the brain has two ways of seeing the world. Like if we put a blue square here and an orange square here, and you looked at them individually, you'd say that one's blue, that one's orange. You put them together, like really close, they turn gray. Those optic tests they have on the internet, and that changes the color. So our brain has the ability to see colors at the same time, and it blurs. We can do the same with memory and with future imaginations. And when you get them, it's an undeniable dissolving of duality, and you step into the hidden order of your life. And it is if you've probably seen my TikToks, I've got like, a few tears in my eyes, not like a blobbering mess, but
Right.
a poise and an appreciation for the divine order, if you want to call it divine order, or God, the grand order design. I like that one.
Right.
You see it for that's that moment, and it changes your life forever. You're like, I know that there is a divine order logically. I can get there. I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about consciousness.
Right.
Because I don't want to, what's the word? Anthropomorphize things. I'm just looking at the facts and going, okay, how can I make that fact, that phenomena, practical for everyday life?
Right. So you hit a key word for me, and it's a big space for me. Whether you agree or disagree, that would be great to know and expand on either side. Or, as you would say, both sides. Okay. Is that the divine or the universal mind, whatever you want to call it, does not speak to us in words, but it speaks to us in synchronicities. Now, here's the trick. Everybody knows that no amount of regret is going to change the past, and no amount of anxiety is going to change the future. Okay. But any amount of gratitude is going to change the present. The challenge is if what someone wants is good for them, doesn't take anybody else's good, and it's derived through service, the universe says, okay. And it opens up these pathways to us, these synchronicities.
Yeah.
But if I'm not there, if I'm in that timeline you talked about,
you miss
you miss them.
You judge
right?
it and go, not that way. That doesn't look like it's going to get me there. But the universe is like,
what are you doing? What are you doing? So
here's how you do it. You look at the event that looks like a challenge. You're like, not that way. You go, hang on. How is that an opportunity to serve my highest values? How did it benefit me? What you go, okay, what was the reaction I had? Well, I realized I don't want to go that way. Okay, what did that help you reflect, stimulate? What do you think about next? So you start looking for how it did strengthen you, how it did give you some benefit. And don't just say none, because that's the animal brain going, that's out to get me. I need to get that.
Right.
You've got to resist that urge to react and go, hang on a second. Here's my highest value. That's what matters most to me. And really dig deep. How did that shit situation actually benefit me just as much as I perceived it to be a drawback? Till it's 50-50, then you can appreciate. That's not liking, but it's not disliking. It's appreciating the divine order. And you go, wow, I didn't see it that way. Thank you, rather than F you.
Yeah, exactly. So I loved your God. The one that I love is good orderly direction. And the universe is sending me good orderly direction. But if I'm not present, if I'm not in the moment, and I found my experience is if people are not following their bliss, if they haven't found their true value, that they are in yesterday and tomorrow. And there's this force out there saying, over here. No, which is
distracted by the temporary gratification or fears of the world. Your fantasies, your nightmares drive you, which is animal mentality. It's very powerful and it's served us, but we live in 2025. So we have the opportunity to reflect and strategize and just look a little deeper. That's what our brain can do. And
we can get past the amygdala, instantaneous response for what we think is survival. We're not cavemen anymore. It's not dangerous to go to the grocery store anymore and pick up nourishment to keep sustaining the family and myself. But fundamentally, this big takeaway from me, and I think it was 6 words you had.
Yeah. So what Dean Martini calls the 6 states, or the synthesized transcendentals. Synthesized transcendentals. So they're not emotions. They're synthesized emotions, which produce a state of no judgment, no charge. Okay. So it's not a positive or negative electron, but it's a quantum, a chargeless state. And the mind can get into that state. And when you're there, it activates your vision, your clarity, your certainty. And that's where you get the tears. Go, wow, I get to go do that.
I get to go do that. I get to have fun on this blue
Yeah.
marble. I get to have fun on this blue marble doing what I love.
In the face of challenge, in the face of the worst atrocity you could think of. Perfect example, Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp comes out, writes Man's Search for Meaning. And people ask him, how did you keep it together? How did you make that experience meaningful? That and how he did it was saying, this is going to be an example for me to teach the world so it doesn't happen again. He was driven by that. So he made the atrocities meaningful, not less of an injustice, but he made it meaningful and purposeful for him and contributed massively to the world with a book that's been translated into almost every language, has made incredible impact. And you think, how would you go surviving in a concentration camp? Would you come out and do that? It's like, wow. So that's an example of someone who saw the other side of a very challenging situation. Now, we are not all in that situation. Maybe our situation is a lot more, privileged, and there's a lot more liberty. Like, let's just say you've got a job, you've got a family, and you've kind of got things going fairly well. You're not in a war state, but there is a challenge in front of you, and there's a barrier, and you're judging it, and you're kicking yourself because you can't get over it. Well, we can draw on Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey's wisdom here. Look for the mentor, the call to adventure, find enemies and allies, find the gift, face the thing that scares you most. Great lessons.
Yeah, the dragon. Kill the dragon.
Yeah.
Right. Slay the dragon is love.
Darth Vader.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this has been remarkable. And at selfworthsam.com, there's a free course there that you can grab and get to know Sam a little bit better. So please get over there. We always close the same way with a short handful of questions. But the meditation, of course, he has is remarkable. Check it out. It's really fantastic. Sam, we like to close and show how human everybody is here, and despite all these lofty things.
Yeah, let's
do
it.
The first question is, what's your favorite word?
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
Love
enthusiasm.
It. But you got to say it. I can't do it, but you got to say it with a New York accent. I love the New York accent. Maybe you can say it. Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah,
Forget
I love it.
About it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Your least favorite word?
I'm going to say apple pie because it's dangerous.
Okay. What turns you on spiritually or emotionally?
Dancing.
Okay.
Dancing. I love that. Any kind of dance music or traditional dance.
Yeah, right out of the Psalms. I will rejoice and be glad all my days, which means I'll sing and dance. What turns you off?
What turns me off? I've got this little button at the back of my head. If you turn it like C-3PO, I will stop talking. No. What turns me off? If I can't have fun.
I feel you. Favorite curse word?
Shit, because it stands for spiritually harmonizing intelligent truth.
Fantastic. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, well, I grew up creating drum kit sounds with my voice so I can imitate drums. So like a kick drum is like snare drum and a closed hi-hat. And if you put them all together, you get like a rhythm like. So that sound.
Fantastic. I was a drummer, and little did I know it was a prophecy. The name of my band was Tyranny's Children.
Yeah.
And so anyway, what sound or noise do you hate?
The garbage trucks, man. but I gotta be appreciative because they take the trash away.
What what profession other than your own do you think you might like to attempt if time allowed?
A chef, a
Chef.
chocolate chef. I would make dark chocolate professionally.
Okay. And which profession or job would you really never want to attempt?
I would never want to be a dentist.
Highest suicide rate per occupation, right?
Wow.
In
Okay.
case you're ever on Jeopardy, I'll give you that one. And in an
Looking at all those
orchestra,
teeth.
the highest death rate, the youngest death rate is for people that play two reed instruments, believe it or not. Who knows why?
Wow.
Last question. If God exists, what would you like to hear him say to you or she say to you when you get to the pearly gates?
Keep playing.
Keep playing, baby. Keep playing. Sam, incredible. Selfworthsam.com. Follow him on TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever. I will have all those links down below once Davine gets this posted. And we'll create some short clips for us both to put up and get the word out about your remarkable
Thank you, Mark.
mission to elevate people's self-worth and find their true self, find and follow their bliss by understanding what their real value is and moving into non-judgmental. Dave, we're good.
Thank you, Mark.